So this is the Doing Business with the City of Chicago session. And what we're going to talk about today is, oh, we got the wrong one. All right, first thing we'll talk about is the mission statement. And then we'll talk about the laws that's governing the procurement process, the types of procurement, certification, the contract monitoring and compliance, programs and bid incentives, and navigating the DPS website. And then we'll have a question and answer period after that. All right. So the mission statement is barely just states that we are the contract authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. And what that means is that we, meaning procurement, will handle all business for goods and services for the city. Everything must come through our department. No other department can make decisions on behalf of the city in terms of contract except our Department of Procurement Services. All right, so the laws, and what are we governed by? We're governed by these two, the Municipal Purchasing Act and Chapter 2-92 of the Municipal Code of Chicago. And like I said, these ordinances is what we utilize to move forward for all contracts with the City of Chicago. All right? What type of procurements do we handle? We handle small orders. We handle all competitive bids, requests for proposals, requests for qualifications, and job order contracts. So those are the 5 major contracts or procurements that we work with. All right, so the first one I mentioned is small orders. Small orders is an opportunity for a multitude of vendors to be able to provide services or goods for a contract for the city. It must be under $100,000 for it to be considered a small order. $100,000 and 1 cent, the bid would be rejected, so everyone knows that. It's meant to be a fast pace in procurement, meaning it doesn't have to, you see here, it can be solicited by telephone, fax, or even a written posted on our DPS website. You do not have to come here and provide your bid for this particular procurement. With, like I say, we ask for this. This could be a quick turnaround process. It doesn't have to be advertised. What we ask for, though, is that it could be certified MBE, WBE vendors are solicited first. So we ask the department that is actually saying for the goods or services, we ask them to identify 3 firms that are MBE or WBE vendors. If we cannot find one for that particular solicitation, then it will go out with no stated goals for that particular requirement. For MBW compliance required for all bids over $10,000. Now there's 2 different thresholds for the $100,000 small order. We have, like I say, up to $100,000, then you have up to $10,000. So under $10,000 is one threshold, then from $10,000 and 1 up to $100,000 is the next threshold for small orders, just so you know that. So if there was a bid that went out for a $10,000 threshold small order, and your bid came in at $10,001, those bids are then, that bid would be thrown out because it went over the threshold. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, the next one is competitive bid. This is everything else. This is everything from vehicles, heavy equipment, typewriters, anything over $100,000, $100,000 or more, and as you can tell, they must be advertised. Must be in the City of Chicago's, the Sun-Times. And it's in the daily classified section, or it would be posted on our website. That's very good. And the website is www.cityofchicago.org/procurement, and it's in the documentation that we have here today, so you don't have to write that down. And what does that mean for if you were to be interested and you wanted to provide a bid for this particular solicitation, you must provide it here in the bid and bond room. This is one that you cannot fax, you cannot email. You must bring it here to room 103 by the specified date and time on the solicitation. Now, those solicitations can be for 10 to 30 days on the street, and a planned deposit may be required for some bids, and most of the time, planned deposit is for those for construction bids, okay? All right, I just mentioned about the competitive bid. Sometimes there's a pre-bid. The pre-bid is going to give you an opportunity to ask questions about the solicitation. Sometimes those solicitations are technical in nature, so you want to be able to address all concerns that you have about the specification, meet other vendors. This is a good time to network with other vendors. Actually review the specification. Maybe you haven't taken out the specification. This is a good time to actually look at it. Maybe it's something that you think you're interested in. Oh, this is not really what I thought it was. This is a good opportunity. The pre-bid allows that. The pre-bid is normally held in this room here. If you're interested in a bid, it's normally held in this room. All right. And usually, on the last note there, it says it may result in an addendum or clarification. What does that mean is that usually these questions are something that the project manager from the user department did not think about. So this gives an opportunity for them to say, you know what, we need to change. Addendum means a change to the specification or solicitation document. So when we change anything in a solicitation document, we must do so by addendum. And when addendum is advertised, it has to be advertised. It has to be advertised in the Sun-Times and give all the vendors who took out that specification at least 10 days to review that information. So, and the clarification, of course, does not need to be advertised. Clarification just says, okay, if you asked a question and we don't think it was clear in the document, we'll give that answer via clarification. It's just your question and the answer to your question. That's simply what a clarification is. No change to the solicitation document. Okay. A pre-bid could also include site inspection. So, say for instance, the Riverwalk is a solicitation that we're talking about. It can involve us walking over to the actual site and looking and going over what the bid document will contain. But also it's noted that if there's not a pre-bid meeting, bidders are encouraged to review the spec on your own, okay? And during that period, the 10 to 30 days I mentioned while it's on the street, meaning in the advertisement, and the contract administrator identified in that spec will try to answer any questions. And if he can't, he'll move it on to the project manager who will try to answer those questions. So either way, you're going to get your questions answered to whatever spec that's on the street, okay? All right. What is a complete set of bid documents? So say, for instance, you're interested in bidding a project. What you want to do is make sure you filled in all required. More is always better than less, okay? If you say, oh, I'm going to sign this as the president, okay, you are the president, but on the bottom you see that it says to be notarized and you don't notarize, then that's considered a reason for a rejection of a bid. So like I said, you always want to do more than less, so you want to make sure that you fill in all the required information. Note, certain bid documents must be submitted and executed with the bid. If not, as I just mentioned, the bid could be rejected. So there are a number of affidavits in those bids. We ask for veteran information, if you are, if you're not. You just want to make sure you pay note to that information. It asks if you're a local vendor. Maybe you're located in the city of Chicago proper. You want to be able to provide information that shows your address, and it asks for you to sign and notarize that. These are all the documents, and there's a number, about 5 or 6 or 7 other different documents in those bid documents, and each one will vary depending on what we're asking for. But you just want to make sure, as I said, sign and execute the document. And if you're not clear what that means, you should reach out to someone in the firm or an attorney to make sure that you have the proper execution of documents before you turn it in. And as I just mentioned before, make sure it's notarized. That's somebody who has witnessed your signature for that document, okay? So the bid submittal. So you want to include, and like I say, all of them will not be the same on each particular one, but if there's a bid deposit, you must have it in the form of either in the proper form, but it says cash, you cannot just bring whatever the deposit in cash. And it's usually 5% of your bid. 100,000, you say 5%, you want to bring 5,000. So you want to make sure that you provide the proper bid deposit. And if there's a bid fee, it in most cases is non-refundable. And it may be required for some bid submittals that are over $100,000. And it must be before 11 a.m. All of our bid openings are 11 a.m. except for requests for proposals and qualifications, which we'll talk about later. As I just mentioned, the bid openings are it's Monday through Friday, no holidays, and it's always at 11 a.m. They're read right here in this room. They're videotaped. Like I said, bids are open and read aloud. The bids are tabulated, and the bids are tabulated by the contract administrator that's been noted on the advertisement for that project to make sure that it's accurate, make sure that the numbers that you provided are accurate. And then the bid documents are reviewed for accuracy and completeness. That's done by the contract administrator as well. And then it is forwarded to the user department for them to review. And then if they are in agreement with the numbers provided, they will then forward us a recommendation of award to award your firm a contract. But we also want to make sure that you are responsive and a responsible bidder as well. So we'll talk about that as well. During that award process, as I just mentioned about the bidder's responsiveness and responsibility, there are various documents that you as a bidder must provide to us. We need insurance. We need an EDS, or economic disclosure statement. Anything that we ask for during that award process, it is incumbent upon you to provide that to the contract administrator. And if you do not provide that information, that's where we talk about the responsiveness of a bidder. Responsibility is the ability to be able to perform the work. We ask, do you have the capability? We'll ask for certain bonding information. We ask for mobilization issues. We want to know if you can do the work. So that's where responsibility will fall in. Okay? Now the recommendation of award, like I said, that's provided by the user department. That gives us the opportunity now to officially award a contract. Now the acceptable bid is packaged, and all the bid documents are routed through our signature approval process. And what does that mean? We have 3 departments that must sign off on your contract. 1 is the comptroller. 2 is our department, Procurement Services. And of course, the mayor must sign any and all documents that we send for award. On a construction project, a performance and payment bond and insurance and funding agency concurrence for award are obtained. So if it's a construction, we want to make sure that a bond is executed by your firm. And then, as we always say, the contract is awarded to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. We want to keep saying that because it's important, because if you're not responsive during the entire award process, it's a possibility that you will get your bid rejected because you did not provide the information we needed. Okay? All right. As I mentioned earlier, this is now the request for proposal is a little bit more, is not a competitively bid process. This method is used to solicit proposals to implement a new project requiring professional services. So consulting services, financial services, insurance services, these where all this will fit in. And it's used when the city does not have an in-house technical expert. So we want to go outside. Say, for instance, the risk management we have with the city of Chicago, if the staff is limited, we will go outside to obtain someone else to help us with those services. Okay? And the RFP defines the project objectives and the scope of services. That's with all RFPs. There is always a scope of services that is provided. And it always required a detailed evaluation of the proposals by an evaluation committee. And the evaluation committee is comprised of by the user department. They are the ones that tell us, meaning procurement, who they want to sit on that committee to review all the submittals that come in. So if, say, for instance, this group here were to submit submittals, we would have a group of evaluation committee that will review everyone's submittal here today. And then they would determine who would be qualified to move on to be the selected vendor. And it says low price is not the only factor. Competitive bid means the low price is the factor. In the RFP, it is not the low price. We look at qualification. We look at your personnel. We look at any legal actions that you may have against your firm. Look at your insurance. We look at all of that. That's what RFP will allow us to do. And like I said, the award is made to the highest rated and ranked respondents. All right. The next type is an RFQ. And an RFQ is a request for qualification. All we want is the most qualified that can do this, a particular discipline, say for the city of Chicago. Say for instance, architecture engineering, which I manage. We usually we have a process like building a bridge for the city of Chicago. We would go out on the street for RFQ. We want to know all the various vendors who can help us build this bridge. So we want all the architecture engineering firms to send us all their qualifications for the bridges for the city of Chicago. So what happens? Say, for instance, this is the group again that everybody wants to be that bridge builder for the city of Chicago. You will submit those qualifications here. We ask for those qualifications to come at 4 o'clock versus 11. I mentioned 11 is for bids, 4 o'clock is for all RFQs. And say, for instance, like I say, you're the group that submit them. We then, the same way as we do with a RFP, we have an evaluation committee that will review those submittals. They are responsible for reviewing your submittal, making sure that you had every document that we asked for in this RFQ. Okay. And as it says, let's go a little bit deeper. It says it possesses a high degree of technical expertise. So if this is the group and you just wanted to submit, but you really don't build bridges, they will know by looking at your submittal, okay, because of your past performance. They look at everything. They look for at least 3 to 4 years of your expertise in that various discipline. And what we'll do is we don't just hire one firm for that. When we ask for qualifications, we want a group of firms that can be able not just to build one bridge, we want you to be the expertise on all the bridges that's going to get built in a certain subset. So CDOT say they want 10 bridges under this RFQ. When we qualify those firms, we may have 10 firms that can provide those qualifications for those 10 bridges. All right? And the city will pre-qualify those companies to build a vendor pool. So when, say, bridge for Hyde Park comes up, we'll go to the 10 vendors. Those 10 vendors will then provide all their qualifications because they're selected now, and they will provide then at that time their pricing of how much it would cost for the city to hire them as the vendor to provide those services. And as it says here, it's based on qualifications and technical competence. And the way we weigh that is by, like I say, in the document it asks for submittal requirements. We ask for your personnel. Who's on your team? What was the last bridge you built? We want to know all that. All right? And that's, as I said, for A&E RFQs, there is no cost proposal, but the fee schedule is negotiated later as part of the master agreement. And so the master agreement is the contract you're going to be held under once you're selected for this particular RFQ. It's called the Master Consulting Agreement, and that's what the agreement that you'll be working under. All right? All right. So, job order contracts. Now, this is a different type of contract. This is not an RFP, this is not RFQ, but it's still this is a way for the city of Chicago to do a lot of the construction work, smaller type construction for the city of Chicago. It is a firm fixed price competitively bid. I mentioned what competitively bid means. So it is the lowest price. Whenever it says competitively bid, it always means the lowest price is who would generally win that bid as long as they're responsive and responsible. All right? The method to use for solicit qualification for a company possess a high degree of technical expertise and knowledge. All right? And is used to accomplish small to medium size. So it's not the large like a Lakeshore Drive type project or something like that. This is for small, medium size, like fixing, matter of fact, this City Hall. You see them outside fixing the outside of City Hall. That's a JOC project right now, just so you know. All right? And the thing is, instead of bidding every small or medium construction job, this will be they use a group as well as of vendors that can provide those services the same way that you would for RFQ, but you can have a set of vendors for this as well. And that's what it's saying. They don't bid every job. They have one vendor that can do all of the jobs. All right? And general contractors are solicited to respond to an advertised JOC specification. And they use a unit price book for that. And there is a session on JOC, job order contracting, that we offer here, and we can talk about when that is offered. All right, so again, it is awarded to the general offering the most favorable adjustment factor. They use the word favorable adjustment factor. That's the same thing as the low bid in their world, okay? And the value of the JOC contract depends upon the departmental needs and their budget. So, okay, so like I said, this is offered. We have a session on JOC. If you're interested in it, it really goes into the nuts and bolts of what JOC is all about. All right. So, certification. Now, this is outside of my scope, but this still, we as procurement professionals understand there are always 5 types of certification with the City of Chicago. You have the MBE, which is a minority-owned business, the WBE, which is a women-owned business. You have the BEPD, which is the business enterprise owned by people with disabilities. You have a DBE, which is a disadvantaged business enterprise. And you have the ACDBE, which is the airport concession disadvantaged business enterprise. So those are the 5 ones that we use. Say it again. Oh, the VBE, so that's the veteran one. That's a new one that they just, so we'll be adding that to our slide the next time we come around, okay? All right, so what are the basic eligibility requirements? Businesses must be at least 51% owned, so it's very important, and controlled by a minority, women, or other disadvantaged individual or veteran individual, so I add that as well. And under the BEPD program, business must be at least 51% owned and controlled by an individual with a disability. So what they're saying about the 51% is want to make sure that you are in control of the business that is that has the certification. So if you're 49%, then that means that you're not truly a MBE, WBE, and we have staff that will determine whether or not you are 51% or larger in terms of the certification, okay? All right, so the contract monitoring compliance, and this takes place when a contract is awarded. We will monitor the actual MBEs, WBEs, and DBEs that have been listed as subcontractors on a compliance plan. So what does that mean? If we go out to bid and we have goals on a project, say for instance the goals are 25 and 5, and you as a vendor put down vendors to perform those subcontracting as an MBE or WBE, this is where the monitoring compliance, because they want to verify that the vendors that you listed can actually perform the work that you have on in your bid document. So this is where they come in. They will verify everything, make sure, say for instance the work is in construction and concrete and you give us a vendor that's in electrical, then that wouldn't pan out. Then they'll say that this vendor is not certified in this area. You must either replace them or find someone else to provide their services. This is what they do. This is what compliance do. They would verify that anyone that you put in your plan is capable of doing the work, okay? The Chicago residency ordinance, the contract must be estimated at $100,000 or more and funded by the city. So that's that's also called the CRO. And the 50% of the total work hours must be performed by actual residents of the city of Chicago. And a lot of that is on our construction projects, so you just be aware of that. And then for the equal employment opportunity, it speaks for itself, but in order to promote equality of performance for minority female personnel in city-funded construction projects, an award criteria determination must be inserted to each contract specification that is estimated $100,000 or more. So we try to make sure that there's a fair playing field for all City of Chicago residents as well. Give them an opportunity to work on any construction project for the City of Chicago where city and taxpayer dollars are being funded into these programs or into these projects. All right. Ways to achieve compliance. And as I said, you got the contract monitoring. You can either be an MBE, the prime is an MBE, WB, or DBE. You can joint venture with another firm that is an MW or DBE. Subcontracting portion of work to one or more MW or DBEs. Or you can purchase materials that are used in the performance of the contract from one or more MW or DBE. So these are the various ways that you can utilize or we achieve compliance on a contract. Now, the reporting requirements. The prime contractors are responsible for submitting the monthly subcontract payment certification forms, the weekly certified payrolls, and waivers of lien. We have a system called C2, which allows the vendors to be able to go in and show that they made payment to their subcontractors. And that's another part of the contract manager compliance, is that they verify that you're making payments to your subcontractors. Okay? Now, the next one is on the programs and bid incentives. Now, the bid incentives was something I spoke about a little bit earlier. These are documents that are in the bid document that you can apply for, but I mentioned that you have to also fill those out. You can't ask for them without filling out the proper documents. As you notice, there are 7 bid incentives out there. You got different programs, the small SBI for construction. I had a little bit about that. That's for various, for the SBI. So for SBI, we'll set up sometimes a project between a cost between $2 million and $3 million for construction. Then there's an SBI 2 for cost between $1 million and $2 million. Then there's an MBI program for cost between $3 million and $10 million. So there's various SBI construction programs that we allow for vendors to be a part of building or contracts for the City of Chicago. You got the diversity credit program and you have the mentor protege, meaning you as a firm, you'll take on a firm to help build their reputation, help build their certification, help build them as a company for that. So you got the various programs that we offer. And then, like I say, so all these different bid incentives that we offer in the spec, which will allow you to lower your bid price just so you can then will be deemed the low bidder. So you have like 2% incentives on almost every one of those bid incentives or more, and they'll allow your price to be lowered just because you took that incentive. Now, it doesn't mean that's what the amount you get paid if you got the contract. It just means that if you were, say, a small business enterprise and you filled out the affidavit in your bid, it can lower your bid. So if your bid was $1 million, 2%, when we calculate, we'll do a bid tabulation. We'll calculate that 2%. And say the next low bidder was $998,000. That 2% could bring you down lower and cause you then to become the low bidder on that project. So that's what the bid incentives do. And like I say, all of these offer a bid incentive, 2% on down. All right. Now the DPS website, very transparent, offers all of these different opportunities for you to be able to see what we do in terms of procurement. You can see all the awarded contracts and modifications. You can see payments. You can see bid tabulations. You can see the weekly bid opportunities. It's a searchable with MWBE directory, bid incentives, the regulations, and of course there's our www.cityofchicago.org/procurement. So we'll first talk about how do you go about how do you go on our website. You go for our website, you go to the cityofchicago.org/procurement, and when you go out there, you'll be able to see, we'll see this page here. And say, what do you want to do? You want to search for something, and that's what it gives you the option to search. So you go out there, and we're going to do the contracts and awards. So you have various things. If you want to say, I want to find out who who bid that, or who won this contract. You know the vendor's name. You can put the vendor's name in and hit search. It'll bring up everything that vendor has won for the city of Chicago. So, but if you even want to get more specific, if you know the PO number, and that's where we are, when a contract is awarded, it is awarded a PO number, you can put that number in, and it'll bring up that contract specifically. And then if you want to look by departments, you want to say by CDOT, by Fleet and Facility Management, you can put that where it says select, and you can do that, and you can select that way. So you have various options of selecting of how you want to look up awards for the city of Chicago. So once you do that, say for instance now they did the PO number. They put 4848 up there, right? When you put that in and hit search, as you notice, 4848 comes up. It tells you who the vendor name, the awarded amount of the contract, what the award date was, and even give you the description of what the project was. So if you want to look at that, all you got to do is click in. That's a little PDF sign up there. You click in there, and then the contract will actually open up so you can actually look at the actual contract. These are all the modifications that were on that contract. So the first one, of course, is the contract. All these are considered modification, and these are all you see on the other side. Those were deductions or additions to the actual contract. All right, so if you want to look at payments, same thing. If you give you two different search criteria, actually three. You can put the vendor's name and look at payments for them, or if you have a date, or you have a year. So you can do various ways to do a search to see payments if it was made or not. Bid tabulations, say for instance, this group here, we bid on one spec, and you want to see where did I fall in terms of my bid. You can put the spec number in. Spec number is what governs the actual bid document. We give a spec number to every spec that's on the street. So you can put that spec number in and then hit search, then let's see if it even comes up. But it didn't come up. No. It would put the spec number in. It would be nice to have that, but to show, it will show all the vendors, everybody that's in here today, and it will show your dollar value. Okay? And that's good to know. You say, oh, I was a low bidder. So then you can call the contract administrator and say, hey, I shows I'm the low bidder, so what do we do now? Okay. But they'll probably be in touch with you before that time. But this is what this is for. One of the other fields that they don't show here is right underneath bid tabulation says opportunity takeout list. That's an opportunity. Let me see who else here. Say you're the only vendor here that actually took out the spec. Somebody else over here said, well, let me see who else. And then you'll see that he's the only one that took out the spec. You say, oh, there's only one firm so far. That will grow as you turn in your business card here. They'll add your name to that opportunity takeout list, and you'll be able to see every other vendor. And this is also good for networking. This is good to see, okay, maybe I have a good chance at this one. Nobody else is bidding this. This has got an opportunity for me to make, to bid this opportunity. So that's what, like I say, it's very transparent, gives you an opportunity to see everything that's out there on our website. All right, so like I said, we're very transparent. I mean, I don't know how many other agencies. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and this allows us, and we're at all the outreach opportunities. If you ever go to any of the outreach opportunities, we're there, and this is an opportunity to see the various individuals from our department that was at a particular event right there. And we always have the opportunity to answer any questions that you have, and that's why we are transparent as we are. Okay, so with that being said, we open it up for any questions that you guys might have. You got one here? Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do I do this?
Yes, we're live streamed on YouTube, so they need to get
Oh, yeah, so that's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is, for small orders, do you still go into this website to search that, or is that, how do you find where those small orders are?
Well, there is what is called the bid opportunity list. And I don't know if I spoke more in depth on that, but there's this bid opportunity list that lists every small order. It lists every competitively bid, and every RFP and RFQ. So the bid opportunity list is the opportunity
And that's
to see.
on the website, or?
Well, yeah. If you went to our website too, it would show, it would be categorized in alphabetical order on our website. All the small orders that's out there, all the construction bids. Yeah, everything is listed up there. But also, we also have our quarterly plan exactly, the buying plan, which will tell you, oh, this is coming up in the third quarter. And that's what we're about to work right now. So you say, oh, this is not out yet, but it shows it's coming. This is right at what I want to do. So they'll give you the opportunity to bid it when it comes out. And make sure you sign up for DPS alerts, because this allows you, when it does hit, you'll get the alert to go out there and pick up the document.
Okay, and one more quick question.
Yep.
So I saw that on the website there's a searchable MWBE directory. Now, say that you have just received your certification. How do you get your business into that directory?
Are we sure how that happens?
So we have, it's called our C2 system, which is a certification and compliance site. And that is where we have listed all our M's and our current M's and WBE listings. So once you get your certification through the City of Chicago, you should be listed.
Oh, it's popular. Yeah, so you should be able to, Because other firms, well, the assist agencies, I want to say, will utilize that too, to say, here's, because like I said, vendors look for M and WBEs for their projects. So the assist agencies, that's their responsibility to say, hey, yeah, because you're not just us, Cook County, the state, everybody has their various forms of, but they, like I said, you want to be able to get that type of networking for your project if you want to bid on a project, or you want to be a part of a project. It's their job to say, oh, here's some firms here that work in electrical engineering or whatever the case may be. Okay?
Any other questions?
All right. Yes.
Hi. You mentioned a price book. What is that, and where do I find it?
A price book. What is?
It was on the jock slide.
Oh, that price book would be specific to a project. So, if we solicited a bid for a jock, right? Say, for instance, the aviation, a price book would be a part of that bid, just like the specs where and you would pick that up here at Bid and Bond Room. The price book, the specifications like a book 1, 2, and 3, book 1 being the terms and conditions, book 2 being all the executable documents, book 3 being all the detailed specs. And then a price book. A price book is going to list everything that they want in that spec. They'll have the price factors and all that. So it'll be unique to that bid. So when like I just mentioned with her, if you see something you're interested in construction, and it says jock product, it will have a price book germane just to that particular special, for that job, exactly, okay?
And then you also said that the bids are read aloud. When is that? Is that at the time that 11 a.m. time that
Yeah,
things
that's
are
you
submitted?
mentioned. Yeah, so
Okay.
on your bid document,
Okay.
like I say again, once you go out on the web and you see something you're interested, you always see a bid opening date. Say, for instance, that's tomorrow, and if it's a construction, 11 a.m. But as I mentioned, if it's an RFP or RFQ, meaning a request for proposal or qualification, those are read at 4 o'clock. Those are due at 4 o'clock. Okay.
So they're due to turn in, say it's September 1st. And
Okay.
they're due to turn in at 11 a.m. September 1st. So they are then read,
They
or
are
are
then
they
read.
analyzed first and then read?
They are read right then
Oh,
at that
wow.
time. But that's why we said then they are turned over to the contract administrator for accuracy. Because, say for instance, you put in your bid that it was 100,000, they just read 100,000. We got to go take it upstairs. What if you had an error? What if there was a price you missed? They do the accuracy part of it and say, no, it was really 105,000. So then maybe there was another bid that was 102,000. So for right now, you're the apparent low bid. That's why I say you're the apparent. But we want to also verify that upstairs and make sure that you're the apparent low bidder. And that's what we do. And then it goes over to the user department, who then verifies and say, okay, everything looks right. The low bidder is this person. Here's a recommendation of award. We then process it then for award.
Okay,
Okay.
one last question.
Okay,
I'm
go
sorry
ahead.
to
No problem.
monopolize. You also said that that's viewable. Where do you go to view that if I'm unable to make it here?
Okay, so you're just talking about to see the bid tabulations, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we mentioned, is it right here?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
we do have them, they are streamed, I believe, yeah.
Stream the live bid opening date and time on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yep, so you will see exactly, but if you say you missed that, or you, like I said, you couldn't miss it because you can always stream it, right, later on. If you wanted to see on your phone or you got a tablet, you can go right here where it says bid tabulations. If you know your spec number, you put your spec number in, or say for instance they had 3 bids that day, you can put just the bid opening date. You said September 1st, you can put that date in, hit search, all the bids will come out, you can check it, and then you can see, oh, okay, I can see we were the bidder, we did bid, they did get our bid, you know, because sometimes you have somebody bringing your bid down, and you want to make sure they made it in time. So these are all things you can check on our website. Okay.
Fantastic, thank you.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
One quick or 2 quick questions. On the bid incentives, can you have more than one?
Yes, you can.
So you
can
could-
apply for multiple ones. Say, for
So-
instance, you're a veteran. Say, for instance, you're a small business. Say, for instance, you also, there was a few things I'm
Yeah.
trying to think, but yeah, there's multiple, yes, of
So you
course.
could
yeah.
add, so you could end up, if they're all 2%, you could come down to. So if my bid was 100,000, I could come down to,
But they have to
Is-
verify that too.
yeah, no, once it's verified, it could come down to 94, and if somebody bid 96, I could still be awarded.
Well, that's the whole point, yes,
Yeah.
you're
So there
exactly
you-
right. But that's what I'm saying, it's an incentive.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure we encouraging businesses to be local and bid these jobs, because we want to keep the money here in the city versus streaming out to various states and everybody. We want the taxpayer dollars to pay for tax firms in the city of Chicago.
Okay, and then on the YouTube for watching bid openings, can you watch them, do you have to watch them live, or can you watch them after the fact? After?
That's what I said. You can go whenever you want.
Oh, okay.
I'm about to say, yeah, you got to see it right now. You can say, oh, I want to wait later and save it to your favorites, and then watch it. Exactly.
Okay, now, one last question, and I know it's not on this, but it's on an e-bid. I saw something recently that was an e-bid of
Okay.
something that we do business for. It had since been canceled, so I didn't go too far into it. And I know there's a class on it, but it's always on Thursday, and I have a class on Thursday.
Okay.
But you can watch these streamed anytime also.
Exactly right.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and like I said, you're talking about e-bid or e-procurement. That's what we're calling it.
Procurement.
And what we're doing now is, right now, we're just in the commodity session right now. So everything commodities is going to be an e-procurement bid. So you know that, oh yeah. And now the next one, we're going to have RFP. That's
We
going to be
already have
open.
one.
We have one now, so that's good. So that's where we're going. And the construction is next.
Yep.
And we have one that's coming down the pipeline too. So this is where we're going.
Yeah.
This paper and all this is going away. So
The
just so you
goal
know
is
that.
to have them all rolled out,
Yeah.
all RFPs, RFQs, commodities, construction, by the end of the year.
By the end of the year.
So that everything on e-procurement.
Right now, they're having classes once a month.
They're going to need to, yeah, right.
We'll
That's
work
true.
on it for
Yeah.
the next year.
Exactly, but yeah, because you want to show people how to do
Well,
it.
you're afraid to make a mistake.
Well, just so you notice too, on all e-procurement bids, there is a mandatory pre-bid. Meaning if you are interested in bidding it, you must come to this session and we will show you the nuances of the session. So you can't say, oh, I want to bid this, and you never came to this, because we have a sign-in sheet, we'll have everybody documented who was at the meeting. You have to come to that meeting, because they're going to ask what kind of, make sure you ask all the important questions, because you might say, oh, I went in here, this happened, or I had an error message. We want to get all that documented and make sure that everyone has the fair playing field, okay? So that's so you know that.
This question is more so about RFPs. You mentioned for an RFP, you guys actually tabulate a vendor pool. So after, say, for architecture, engineering,
No, that's more RFQs.
RFQs, sorry.
That's right.
RFQs, right.
Yes.
Now, can you enter into this pool of certified, pre-qualified engineering architecture
Cannot
firms?
enter after the fact. Once that bid opening is done, say for instance, we have an RFQ that's closing tomorrow at 4 o'clock
Right.
on the 25th, right? Or 24th?
Well, not for particularly that project.
Okay.
But just the pool of pre-qualified engineering and architectural firms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you enter into that pool at any point in time?
The only way to enter it is through that RFQ process. You have to submit, you're going to say, for instance, this way she just mentioned about what's the upcoming, like I mentioned about bridges. You're going to see it in our buying plan.
Right.
That's coming up in in October. It's going to give you, okay, it's going to hit in the end of September. They're going to tell you what the submittal requirements are, okay? And then you as a firm got to go put all that information together and have it here by that date on 4 o'clock. And you're going to be you with probably 30 other firms that's going to submit for the same ones. Now what happens is you're going to have an evaluation committee that's going to go through all those 30 firms, and then they're going to determine out of this 30, there's only 5 that are qualified to do this work. That's your pool, that 5. Okay? And then those 5 are locked for maybe 5 years or so.
There's a current one that's open on the BOL.
Oh, and it should be, right, well, as long as it has opened, it has not opened yet, you can still apply for, well, not apply, it's not apply. You have to submit your response for.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Second question, I think you mentioned veterans VBEs were going in.
Yeah.
As a result of that, is the total pool that's awarded to, say, MBEs, WBEs, veterans, is that enlarged a bit? Because I know for Department of Transportation, like 23% of every project goes to DBEs and all that. And I'm saying if you're adding more to that list of folks, are you going to increase that range to maybe 25? I don't know.
Well, they have a goal. Put like that. Like for us, we have a 25% of all the dollars that come through procurement. 25% of that we would say should be awarded to, or MB should have that of that value. 5% of whatever comes into procurement should be for WBEs. Now, in terms of percentages for VBEs, DBEs, I have not seen, because remember, say for DBEs, that's federal. That's federal. So that there's no goal for that. They have their own set of numbers for that. So we don't abide by that. The VBE or the BEPD and the ACDBE, I have not seen a goal for those as well. But I believe 25 and 5 is our certification number that we want. 30% of all the dollars that come in, we want 30% of that to be going to certified firms. 30%. And that's us. Now, I'm not saying that's what CDOT would have or what water management have. They may have their own goal. But for us as a department, of all the money that comes through this department, we go through, and we would just say about $2 billion, 30% of that we want to go to MBEs and WBE firms or certified firms.
Right.
Okay? Yes.
I assume on that list, it goes, all that bid tabulation goes after bid opening?
After the bid opening, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, cannot post any of this until it happens. That's exactly right, yes.
One more?
Are there any requirements for your firm to complete before actually bidding on a project? Like license, your business has to be licensed in the city, or have insurance? I don't know what the requirements could be. Or can anyone just come in here and submit a bid? They may have the qualifications as well, but what if they don't have insurance?
Well,
or
for construction, you have to
just
be.
wondering what their
Well, let's think about it. Well, no, you have to be, like I say, licensed to do business in the state of Illinois.
Okay.
That's one.
So that's one.
Yeah, 25,000 or more, you have to be affiliated with a union for construction projects.
okay,
For
construction.
construction. Can that just say, oh, I'm gonna throw some, $1 million bid in? No, you have to be affiliated with a union for anything over 25,000. That's the PLA agreement.
Okay.
Okay. As far as anything, like I say, depending, like for a commodity, you must show that you have the capability of, because like I say, that's going to now fall on the responsibility of you. Who are you going to get it from? Are you the manufacturer? Are you the distributor? You have to show that you are, and we ask for those documents in the actual specification. We ask for licenses if it's a technical nature. We ask for a certain documentation. All of that is a part of your bid document. So no, those bids do offer a lot of information that the specialist or the contractor can verify if you are suitable to provide that document. And if not, we ask for it after the fact. And that's the responsibility part. Can you mobilize? We don't know, yeah, you can do that, but we're going to ask for 100,000 of this on day one. You got to show us how can we do that, or what have you done in the past to do that. So these are the various things that we ask for. Yeah. Any questions? Yes.
To follow up on the statement you just made, so to do work with the city, you have to be signatory to the union?
No, not any work. Not any work. No, this is for construction.
Well, I'm in construction.
Oh, you're in construction, yes. So,
So, because I've worked for a firm and we just paid prevailing wages, but we weren't signatory to the union doing CHA work.
well, see, is this city? Or the-
Chicago Public House, that's housing.
Yeah, that's what I said, that's a separate agency, right?
Okay.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay,
Separate one, yeah, CHA, I'm familiar,
got it, okay.
yes.
And then with the RFQ, the RFP, the JOC, or whatever those programs, can you, once you submit whatever paperwork is required for your firm to justify that you are, whatever the things that are firm-specific,
Okay,
are you then now an approved firm, or do you have to submit like firm documents every time you submit or respond to an RFQ or
for an
RFP?
RFQ, you're speaking RFQ, right? Yeah,
Yes.
okay, because you mentioned construction,
Because
but,
JOC too, because like I thought they had like a JOC program that you're an approved JOC vendor, but I'm not real familiar
and I'm
with the
not
city of
really familiar, like,
Chicago.
almost like a pool for them as well.
Exactly,
Yeah, and
yes.
I'm not clear on that, but I would let the JOC people, when they have their presentation,
Okay.
speak to that. But I can speak to the RFQ. As you say, when there's a buying plan, and there's something, say you're interested, I'm going to use the bridge again. If you submit for that, the 30 firms submit for that, and they choose 5, the contract, and they'll specify in the actual bid document, this is a 5-year agreement with, say, 3 extension options. So that's an 8-year agreement. So during that 8-year period, your firm is in that pool for all the bridges that they specified in that RFQ. So in that time, you're going to be getting a request for a task order, whether it's a TOR or a request for task order request from those 5 firms, and you provide it back to procurement, and we have, not to procurement, to the user department, and they will evaluate, and then they'll make a determination, okay, this firm will do this one. And then they'll go out again to the 5, then the next one, and so on. This will happen for 8 years.
Okay, and
Okay.
you said that's what the RFQ is. There
That's what the
something
RFQ.
similar with the RFP?
RFP, that's one firm. They will select, say for instance, I got one for the HVAC parts. They selected one firm because they would, once we finish their negotiation with that firm, they provide all the HVAC parts for the city of Chicago. Yeah, but see, like I say, RFP is different than RFQ. RFP, we will select one firm. RFQ, we will select a vendor pool. Okay. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, the RFP is project specific.
Yes. All right.
Any other questions?
There it is. All right, very good. I thank you all for coming. And I hope, and some middle bidders, get us some good bids, yes. All right. All right. All right.